The gaming news today is covering a wide breadth of topics. We have new information explaining exactly what led to Assassin's Creed Shadows' delay and what they're going to be working on while the game is in fact delayed and not coming. We also are seeing no official Starfield Shattered Space reviews yet. I'll explain why and also tell you about what's going on with the review score on Steam. We are also going to be looking at there's some roadmap and some changes and some things with Star Wars Outlaws. There was some misinformation out there about Death Stranding 2, new gameplay of Hell Is Us, and some other games I'm going to put on your radar. If you like this kind of content, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell button, be here. Daily talk shows covering gaming news, as well as uploads and opinions and debates and discussion. It's also a safe for work channel. A lot of people put me on in the background of their day. So to start things off, I think this is probably the bigger story out of all of them, is that we finally have an explanation of what is going on with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm not really interested in debating all the controversy and the drama and whether or not you think somebody should or shouldn't be in the game. But there is going to be some stuff addressed that was not accurate or was at some level maybe even considered a little bit offensive to different cultures. So Insider Gaming is how we have this context, okay? And according to them, quote, it boils down to strict development timeline, polishing, and addressing the Japanese community's cultural and historical accuracy concerns. Now, I speculated that some of this stuff would be addressed and corrected in the span of time. There were some pretty significant mistakes made, and people were obviously pretty upset. Now, there were some rumors circulating that Yasuke was going to be removed from the game. That is simply not true. That is been squashed by Insider Gaming. But they are, however, according to the article, quote, changing some of Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, and ensuring that the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. So they are going to be addressing Yasuke specifically and how he's portrayed. He's not going to be removed, but they will also be fixing some of the architectural mistakes and some other things that were just clearly not done carefully. Now, according to Insider Gaming, Ubisoft historically has a very strict asset approval process, so some of this seemed a little strange. Historical experts, however, were brought in much later on this project, which led to miscommunication and cutting corners. Also, the size and scope of a game like this led to bugs, and there are end-of-game development fixes that need more time. Tom Henderson also added the following on Twitter, saying that, quote, never say never when it comes to delays, but the new date, I'm told, is adequate time. Obviously, he's pushing back on the notion that, hey, most of the time delays just aren't enough. You know, a couple of months, 5 months or something in the grand scheme of development, it's just not going to be enough for them to fix a lot of glaring issues. So we're obviously going to see just how much they fix and address or you know, modify in that span of time. Now, the second big story that I think is worth putting in front of you is that Starfield Shattered Space, there are no official reviews on Metacritic, and it doesn't have a great review score on Steam. Now, apparently, this is standard practice for Bethesda to not send out early access review copies of DLC. They didn't do this with previous games, and they're not doing it with Starfield either. Okay, so nobody had early copies. Multiple people put out like, hey, we're working on a review right now. Now, the Steam reviews are not looking very good. It's sitting in the low 40s. When I checked it this morning, it was at 43. Many people attributing it to just sort of like cliche Bethesda storytelling. It was still very boring, and people were largely not that impressed. The people that did seem to like it were those who had really been enjoying it, but I did speak with somebody this morning in our Discord who said New Game Plus actually made it less enjoyable for them. So I'm sure, just like the Starfield Defense Force did the last time with the main game having a terrible score virtually everywhere, they'll tell us that, you know, it's being review bombed. I really don't think people bought this DLC just to review bomb it. It was reading that the fans were largely not happy. So, we'll see if this is just sort of the beginning. I said it was going to look more like a 1.0 moment than a 2.0 moment. It was an opportunity for them to lay good groundwork for the game going forward, but from what I saw, it didn't look like it was going to be anything that significant to bring me back. I also was unwilling to grind all the way to level 35. I was not going to put that amount of time in. I feel like the beginning of the game is incredibly boring, and based on the review scores already on Steam, I'm kind of glad I skipped it, because it doesn't look like it's doing all that well. Now, we also have brand new information about Star Wars Outlaws. They outlined a new roadmap and DLC. Insider Gaming said the following. They quoted them as, "Our team is currently working hard to address your feedback and deliver new content. More title updates will be heading your way in the coming weeks, along with the release of our first story pack on November 21st. And then the next update, Title Update 2, will have a focus on bug fixes and improvements." Now, the first Star Wars Outlaws DLC is being described on the Insider Gaming article as it will be on November 21st. It will be called Wildcard, as Kay and Nix infiltrate a high-stakes sabacc tournament where they will face off against legendary Lando Calrissian. So, for those of you that did not really enjoy Star Wars Outlaws like me, I basically bailed on the game in one of those egregious and terrible stealth missions, and they have admitted that those missions were far too punishing. I think they were seeing internal fail rates probably too high, and they probably saw a lot of people doing what I did, where it was like, this isn't good enough to put up with. This isn't good enough to, spend any time in. So, and Lone Wolf is saying it has less than 600 reviews, to be fair. That's actually not even remotely helping or defending the DLC. It means that the most committed people, the small amount of people who are the most committed and bought the DLC, are not giving it a good score. So I actually don't think the low review count on Steam helps anybody have confidence in Starfield Shattered Space. Just a little on the fly little bit of pushback. I think the low review scores is actually a problem. Usually when you have your most committed players in that first batch, your review score tends to be higher and then go down. So I would imagine it's not going to change much. Another story that sort of hit that has been since corrected, unsurprising to see IGN get another one of their infamous community notes on Twitter, because they're basically a tabloid who consistently lies and misrepresents things. They were claiming that, Kojima had said that Death Stranding was only 30 to 40% done. They have been community noted. That is the voice work. The voice work is about 30 to 40% done, not the whole game. So, as is typical with that outlet, they'll take something, twist it, misrepresent it, and make it look negative. They've done this a handful of times, and they have been consistently community noted. So, anytime you catch them doing that, be sure to ask for a community note on their tweets, because they're not an honest outlet. So, it's good to hear that it's like, because I'm thinking 30 to 40%, and you got Kojima saying, listen, this thing's coming out next year. I was like, how on earth are you going to get 60% of the game built in less than a year's worth of time? That seemed insane to me. Now, Kojima has reiterated that the game will release in 2025 as planned. He said, I haven't said the release date today, but the release date has been decided. I'm currently working on it in preparation for that. So that is forthcoming. And if you saw the headlines that it's only 30 to 40% complete, that was something that was false, and it has been since community noted. If you're a fan of Rainbow Six Atom has leaked, according to Game Rant. The credibility of the leaker, apparently they're quite renowned in the Rainbow Six Siege community, someone named Shiny, and they said that this Rainbow Six Atom is the next game coming from Rainbow Six Siege, and it seemed like it came from a fairly reliable source, so we'll obviously have more information forthcoming on that as more develops there, but just wanted to put that on your radar, that there is in fact something coming for Rainbow Six according to a leaker. And if you watched the state of play as well as kind of my reaction to it, you may have picked up on this game called Hell Is Us, and they revealed new gameplay through IGN. It's a decent chunk of gameplay, but a lot of it looks like this. A lot of it looks like just sort of walking around, and apparently the game is 50% exploration, 50% combat. And the combat actually seems quite methodical. The developers describe it as a hack and slash game. I don't know quite why they call it that. The actual combat looks a little bit more thoughtful than hack and slash. Hack and slash in my mind is, pretty straightforward. You just kind of go up to the enemies and you hack and you slash. There seems to be quite a bit of dodging and crowd control in this trailer, but also a lot of puzzle solving. So the world itself is there to be explored and figured out. Like, you'll notice there are times in this block of footage where they are finding things that don't quite make any sense or look like they're sort of codes or different locks and doors and puzzles and things that need to be solved. That is intermixed with combat. Now, I do think in this new footage there is good combat. Like, I think the combat looks very, very good. Again, it looks very thoughtful. So I'm just trying to let people know, set your expectations. That initial trailer really seemed like it was going to be a combat-heavy game, but you're going to be doing a lot of this right here. You're going to be doing a lot of interacting with environments, structures, and puzzles. And so for me, I've always said that as long as my expectations are properly set, I can better enjoy a game. So now that I know this, I can go into this game with the proper expectations and not go in thinking like, oh, it's going to be purely combat focused. There is going to be quite a bit of that exploration and puzzle solving as well. Now, another story that was making the rounds was that the PlayStation 5 heads-up display or dashboard update was adding ads to people's pages. This was simply untrue. This was another thing that was largely misrepresented. I saw IGN being one of the people pushing this narrative. They weren't ads, they were updates. If you're familiar with PlayStation and the dashboard, whenever you go to a game, down below they paste and post the most recent updates. Like if there are patch notes, if there's DLC, if there's a new trailer, if there's an announcement, anything like that, typically goes down below. And what was happening was, whatever the latest update was going back behind, and the wallpaper of the game was changing. One of the updates was like a video on YouTube about Space Marine 2. It was not an advertisement. The only thing I guess you could classify as an advertisement was the Call of Duty page was showing the next season. There were no ads. There were no calls to action. There was nothing to even click on. It was a bug, according to PlayStation, and I had somebody internal tell that to me. They're like, this is being addressed. It wasn't supposed to do that. It's basically taking the most recent update or news item for that game, and it was just making that image the background. It was not something that was supposed to be happening. And again, they were not ads, okay? So every time we do gaming news today or gaming news this week, the one that we do on Friday is usually a recap of the week, but day to day, if you guys continue to support this, I want to continue doing this with you. We had a great turnout today. I'm already seeing a really strong turnout. So you know what I want to do? I want to kind of give back. I want to say, hey, these are games worth checking out. These are games worth kind of putting on those wish lists. Add this to your radar. And this game is called Vampire Hunters. And what it does is it takes the survivor element. If you've played a survivor game like Vampire Survivors, Brotato, or Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, which I'm actually going to talk about that one in a moment, it takes that survivor element and it puts you into the first-person perspective. And you don't just wield guns like a couple of guns. You wield lots of guns. And I mean lots. It's going to cover your screen. As you can see here, roughly 8 to 10 guns across the bottom with some things up top. I've even seen some melee weapons up at the top, like I think like a couple of them look like lightsabers. This game looks really, really fun, and I believe right now you can play it like a demo, maybe or maybe not. I believe it is coming October 30th. This is one that I will definitely be checking out. I've been really, really getting into survivor games lately. The Brotato beta, you can go into the Brotato install on Steam and you can load up the beta and play co-op. I played co-op with my wife and it was really, really fun. So be sure to check out Vampire Hunters. Add that one to your lists. Oh, it actually is in early access on Steam. I have it here in my notes. I just needed to scroll down. Vampire Hunters is in early access right now on Steam for $15. It has an 86% on Steam. Now, here's another game. I just want to put this one on your radar. I've done it very, very many times, but I want to do it in an official capacity in one of these news segments. RoboQuest, they recently did a roadmap update. They've updated this game a ton. It's co-op. It's wonderful. It's on Game Pass. It has a 95% on Steam. It's a rogue shooter that, again, it does feature co-op. They've done some really, really cool collaborations. Super, super fun game. It's reminiscent and feels at times a little bit like Borderlands, but it has a speed and an intensity to it that I think is very, very enjoyable. Definitely check this one out if you're a fan of rogue shooters or if you're a fan of co-op games. The co-op is quite fun. I played it with my nephews a bunch last year at Thanksgiving, and these guys are just still kicking and still delivering really, really good updates. So please support RoboQuest if you like those kinds of games. Now, one last game to put on your wish list or to put on your radar here. I am so addicted to this one. Deep Rock Galactic did a Survivor game. It's only available on Steam right now. Hope to see this thing come to console. Would love to see it get co-op as well. I think these types of games are super fun with another person. I love playing these types. I actually prefer Deep Rock Galactic right now to all other Survivor games. I've played Death Must Die, thanks to a community member, Wheezy, who gifted it to me. Paul, a community member, gifted this to me, knowing that I would probably really enjoy it. Brotato could use a little bit of work. I love playing co-op with my wife in Brotato, but there's not a lot of great meta progression in that game, and the meta progression in Deep Rock is wonderful. If you start hitting a wall and you start dying a lot, just loop back and play the lower hazards, try out the new characters, and work on getting the materials for your meta progression, because it really, really makes a difference. I had some really good advice from some people that helped me out, because I was loving it and hit a bit of a wall, and I'm still very, very hooked on this, very addicted. So very similar plans to RoboQuest. They have roadmap, they have plans. They want to add an endless mode in the future, because I know RoboQuest wants to do the same, so there will be an endless mode. There's going to be new missions, new meta missions, and more coming to Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. So gaming news today, we walked through the reasons Assassin's Creed Shadows got delayed. We can talk about that with you, the live audience. Starfield Shattered Space reviews ain't great, not really showing up yet from the official review outlets either, because they didn't have early access to it. Star Wars Outlaws has its roadmap, clarification of Death Stranding not being 30 to 40% development. It was just the voice actors, and then brand new Hell Is Us gameplay, and a couple of games here at the end for you to add to your wish list. So now you've heard from me. Now it's time to hear from you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Guys, take a quick second and smash that like button. Already a really nice turnout. I've only been live for about 16 minutes. Good to see so many of you here. Smash us all the way to 200 likes, and let me make sure and thank all the people that have done renewals or super chats. Biggie Smalls renewed that member plus, and we know what that means. That adds to the member count. When you are at a member plus or VIP, it counts, but then we're going to go all the way to 110 because DK Bager gifted a member. Han shot first, and so did you. Thank you, DK Bager, for the first gifted member of the day. And a $2 super chat says, why is Alan Wake 2 30 FPS, A64 on the Pro not cool? I'm not really going to get into a debate with you about false information spread by liars, so that's not what's going on with that game. IGN serves its purpose. I never understood the hate, but I don't go to that site for editorial content. It's just news. IGN's good for first looks of games. IGN's good for like when they get, brand new footage of like Hell Is Us, because they tend to get those things rather quickly because of their YouTube presence. Their YouTube channel has like 18.5 million subscribers. So they're good for that, but their presence on Twitter and their articles is just abysmal. They've just become a tabloid. Like, they literally just lie to farm impressions on Twitter, and it's incredibly frustrating. DP Sage with a renewal, Silver Subaru with a renewal. Both of those are VIPs, and both of those are big. 34 months for DP Sage, 44 months for Silver Subaru, almost 4 years. Let's go. Deep Rock Galactic, so much fun. I have been loving it. My wife would probably play Deep Rock Galactic Survivor with me. She didn't like the main game of Deep Rock Galactic, like the anxiety at the end of trying to get out. She just hated it because she's not good at jumping, and so she would get into a couple bad jumping cycles, and it just irritated her. She's like, I don't want to play this. So thank you for those 2 renewals. Those add to the count as well. You guys are the absolute best, and thank you for getting us almost 200 likes on the video already. So for the big thing for me is I'm actually curious just how much they're going to update, change, and add to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like, I'm really, really curious what they're going to do with that, because they're basically admitting, yeah, we screwed up here. We brought in people to help us with our asset approval way, way late, and so we crunched, and so we cut corners, and so they did bad work, I mean, the rumor that they were like removing Yasuke, that's stupid. We don't need to talk about that. But even his presence in the game is apparently going to be changed. Like, I'm genuinely interested, like, how much they're going to achieve between now and then. Like, how much are they going to be able to adjust, update, change, remove, things like that. I'm very, very curious. Derek says, even I'm a bit surprised to hear bad news about both Outlaws and Shattered Space. Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws, according to Ubisoft, fell quite a bit below their sales expectations. And the Shattered Space thing, I mean, it's not surprising. If you look at the review scores of Starfield, there aren't going to be that many people even interested. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the Starfield review score on Steam. How many people do you think were like, yeah, dude, sign me up for some DLC. I can't wait. I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority of the people leaving reviews for Starfield Shattered Space are people that bought, like, the Ultimate Editions and they already get it. And so they're just, like, booting it up and not having a good time with it. You know, if the vast majority of people who bought Starfield at retail and they didn't pay for the DLC in advance think that it's not very good, they're not going to come back for a DLC. Like, think about what happened with Cyberpunk. Okay, so Cyberpunk launches, it's abysmal, and they have to spend an enormous amount of time, you know, fixing it and addressing problems. Okay, Starfield Shattered Space, the price is $29.99. So I can't imagine being one of the people that gave Starfield a bad score being like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go spend $30 in the hopes that they can fix the game. You know? You're not going to get a lot of people to do that. You just aren't. Guys, thank you so much for being here this morning. As you kind of pile in, a lot of you guys kind of coming in to start the day with us, walking through gaming news today. Take a quick second and go through the ritual. Let's get 200 likes really quick. I want to hear from you. Are there any gaming news things that I missed? We're kind of talking about all the different things, whether it's Shattered Space review scores not being very good. Star Wars Outlaws has a new roadmap. We talked a little bit about Assassin's Creed Shadows, and we got new information about its delay from Insider Gaming. Oh, and PlayStation Network was down last night, and it was obviously making it to where, like, you couldn't play your online games, which is a huge bummer. I believe they've gotten it to be back up. I feel like it's been a while since it's gone down, but they need to figure that out. That's never good when you have an outage that lasts that long. Dear YouTube, I'm on my work's Wi-Fi. Why do you keep freezing, says Patrick. Try lowering the quality, Patrick. I've had a couple of my experiences on YouTube lately where I go to the mobile app and it's got the quality changed from what I typically set it to. So, not really sure why that happens, but you could double check that. So I didn't miss streaming last night then? No. If I don't like a game, the last thing I want to do is play more of it. Well, again, if you parallel Starfield to Cyberpunk, the reason I think Cyberpunk got so much goodwill back from the players and got, I think, such a large amount of interest, dude, Spotify changed something with the way their app works. It's so hard to grab it and drag it around. Like, I don't know where to put my mouse. It's just like a big black bar at the top. But I feel that CD Projekt Red did a really, really good job of earning a lot of goodwill back because they weren't just fixing bugs. They were consistently adding content to the game. Now, it got a little confusing because CD Projekt Red referred to a lot of those updates and free pieces of content. They referred to them as DLC. So they were constantly giving you what they labeled free DLC. It would be like a significant update, a lot of quality of life, a lot of patches, a lot of bug fixes, and then they would add something. They would add content, missions, gear, etc. And then they categorized Phantom Liberty as an expansion. So it was, we've been doing free DLC for years, now it's time for a paid expansion. I think the dilemma for Starfield is, it's really soon. It's only been a year, And they've primarily just been doing patches, which to their credit, they added good quality of life, the maps, they added performance mode to Series X, and then eventually performance mode also came to the Series S. So they've been adding good things, but the core game itself still feels the same as it's always felt. And I had the exact same experience with Cyberpunk. I kept coming back to it, and I was like, all right, let's check out the recent updates. Let's check out if things are better. And I would go to play it, and I was in the opening, and the opening to me was notoriously boring. And I feel like Starfield's in the exact same category. It's like the opening is just incredibly boring. I just couldn't bring myself to grind to get to level 35 to play the DLC. And I'm glad that I didn't, because it doesn't seem like it's getting good reviews anyway. There's a difference in being being broken and people being genuinely disinterested in your game. Well, and that's a good way of phrasing it, because like bug fixes don't generate interest, right? Quality of life issues don't generate interest. So I think, did you play the entirety of Cyberpunk? No, it took me like 22 to 26 hours to beat Phantom Liberty, and I had a blast, and I really didn't feel like going back and playing the main game. I just didn't. I felt like that was an adequate experience. I really loved it. There were also other games coming out, so I knew it would have been a substantial amount of time to try and go take on the main game, but if it would have been a massive drought and I had nothing else to play, I might have. Lone Wolf says, a lot of people who reviewed Shattered Space seem to have not liked the base game either. Most of the ones I read talked about how they didn't like the base game and nothing changed for the DLC. Right, but Lone Wolf, I think those are helpful reviews. Those are helpful reviews, are they not? Those are people that thought, hey, maybe this will make the game more enjoyable. Maybe they've really addressed some of the core issues. No, they haven't. So they walk away. Like, Lone Wolf, imagine if I would have played Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and I got a couple hours in and I said, sorry guys, I just still don't think this is a good game. And I wash my hands of it and I walk away. That's a helpful review, because if you're like me and you thought the same way about the beginning of Cyberpunk, you'd have been like, well, I'm not going to bother with Phantom Liberty. But I played Phantom Liberty and I couldn't put it down. I literally could not put it down. I was like, this is everything I ever wanted from Cyberpunk. So I actually think those reviews are helpful. Maybe not for you. Like, if you enjoy the base game of Starfield, you're like, give me more Starfield, right? Like, when I played, the Island of Iki, the DLC for Ghost of Tsushima, the Island of Ikishima, which apparently you can say, Ikishima, you're just supposed to say Ikishima, which I guess means Iki Island. Anyways, when I played that, I was thrilled. It was more Ghost of Tsushima. Now, if you don't enjoy Ghost of Tsushima, I don't know why you'd get all that way and buy that DLC. It's interesting, actually, to think about that, though, in comparison. Not that Tsushima and Starfield are anything alike, but expectations about DLCs in a game like Starfield, I do think, and I do wonder if it's a different expectation. Like, is this intended to really fix things and address things instead of just being additive content? Like, Cyberpunk adding Phantom Liberty was like the capstone to all these changes, and it was a significant alteration of like how the game flowed and felt, and that's why I loved it so much. And if in Ghost of Tsushima, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to get a bunch of updates, alterations, and things that would fix core elements of the game. I just wanted more. I just wanted more of Tsushima. Arguably, the last Helldivers 2 was a giant quality of life adjustment, and they are back to where they were 2-ish weeks later. Yeah, it's almost like when I said that the Helldivers 2 buffs were a Band-Aid. Yeah, I was right. The Helldivers 2 Defense Force absolutely brigaded against my video. They came for me. They were not happy about my video, and I knew. I was like, in a couple of weeks, the numbers will be right back down where they were before, because these changes are exciting, but they're not what the game fundamentally needs. We need a philosophy of cadence for Helldivers 2. We need a philosophy of power. And you need new content. You know? You need new content. You're talking about the meaning behind Shattered Space, the lore behind it? What about it? Did you guys see the current theories that Elle Fanning's character, since her name is Tomorrow, that she's actually the baby from the first game? And that somebody said, tomorrow is in your hands, might have been very literal. Like, tomorrow was literally in our hands. Raphael with a gifted member. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for 200 likes on the video. What a great start to the day. And we're sitting at 113 members on the week. Remember to celebrate your renewals. And remember that all upgrades count as 2. You can just wander and pick up quests and explore traditionally. The stories are also thoughtful, dealing with trauma and power struggle. How people don't find that engaging is bewildering. Oh, you're saying Shattered Space isn't just more Starfield, but it's providing an experience that was missing from the base game. Exploring everything like in their past games. It's not changing the foundation. Well, people wanted the foundation to be changed because the foundation was bland and boring. I mean, listen, I'm glad you're enjoying it, but as I said, when I played Tsushima and then played the DLC, I was like, I'm getting more Tsushima, I'm happy. You played Starfield, you liked it, Shattered Space is more Starfield, and you're saying it's more even in the vein of what Bethesda typically does, so you're really happy. There are a ton of us that didn't feel that way about Starfield as a base game, and we were hoping that the DLC would be more of a fundamental change and a shift. Now, I know that's difficult because, as I said, there hasn't been that much time. Like, Cyberpunk took how long? You know, what was the original release date? Was it 2020? Let's see. The original release date was 2020. All right. And Phantom Liberty came out 3 years later. Okay. 3 years is a lot of time, like, to finally deliver an expansion. So, if Starfield drops an expansion in 2026 that is, you know, earth-shattering, foundational, and core elements of the game have been combed over, fixed, adjusted, updated, whatever between now and then, well, that would be the trajectory that Cyberpunk took. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to be fair to Starfield. Cyberpunk did not fix itself in a year. They didn't drop Phantom Liberty 1 year later. They dropped Phantom Liberty, how long later? It was September. Yeah, December to September. So almost exactly 3 years. So we got to be fair. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you know, Starfield didn't fix everything in 12 months. What a joke. It took CD Projekt Red 3 years to get Cyberpunk to a respectable place with Phantom Liberty. I'm actually willing to give Bethesda the same amount of time because I feel like the scope of their game is at some level quite a bit bigger than Cyberpunk. So, you know, I would love it if end of 2026 they're dropping some crazy expansion and that the game has been largely, you know, rebuilt in some aspects. I'm honestly 50-50 if Bethesda even cares to sway people on it. If they overhaul space travel and flesh out the base game, then maybe. I also want Elder Scrolls 6 to be awesome. At what point are they spinning their wheels is, I guess, my question, Infinite. Is the game just too big, like you're saying, to overhaul all those things? Is it an aircraft carrier that just can't be turned quickly, and all the time spent trying to do that could be spent on Elder Scrolls? You played yesterday and enjoyed it? I know there are people who just love the game, and I had a glimmer of thinking that I could be one of them. I was like, you know what? I could play on my couch. I could chill, 60 FPS. I tried it for an afternoon, and the minute I'm in the game, I don't know how to describe it. Have you ever been in a place where just the tone of the place and the smell and the wallpaper immediately makes you feel bored and tired? Did you have a grandparent's house that was like that? You know what I'm talking about. The minute you step foot in the house, it's dimly lit, the wallpaper's old, there's a smell, the temperature of the house isn't quite right, and you almost instantly feel tired and bored about, like, you know you're not going to have a good time. It's like stepping into a shadow. It's like, I don't want to be here. We've all had that experience, I think, as kids. There is something about the way the building feels. You don't want to be there, okay? That's what Starfield feels like to me. It's like the minute I'm in the game and the minute I'm moving around and I look at the dead-eyed stare of the NPC companion and I'm just moving from place to place, I'm bored and I haven't even done anything yet. It's not that the game is doing something actively. It's just the minute I'm there, I'm like, I'm sleepy. Just shut it off. And I've got so many games in my backlog that it's like, why force it? I was having to change the way I was playing the game to even enjoy it. And then when I played Phantom Liberty, it basically ruined Starfield for me. I went back to Starfield. I was like, this is nothing in comparison. Do you know what I mean? Yanadid, are you talking to me or somebody else? Do you know what? Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Daniel Day-Lewis has seemingly unretired from acting. He has been spotted shooting a new movie titled Aveline with Sean Bean. Huh. You have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake. Rousing endorsement from Lono. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, right? You know, somebody said the church that my grandparents took me to. Like, you knew the minute I described that to you, you could picture the building, the walls, the windows, the smell, something about the way the light comes through the window and the glass, and it's almost like there's a dusty haze in the room. You know what I'm talking about, right? It always drove me crazy, and they did this on purpose, and I love the way that they did it. But it always drove me crazy how dark the house was in Breaking Bad. It's like, turn some freaking lights on. Like, being in a home like that, where just everything feels dark and drab, like, that is what, like, Cyberpunk does to me. It's like the minute I'm in the game, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm good. I'd rather play a frustrating game. I'd rather play a game that frustrates me than play one that bores me, you know, than play one that puts me to sleep. What's Assassin's Creed Shadows doing? So guys, feel free, whenever we're talking about a topic, this talk show is now very, very free form. So feel free, just bring up something and say, hey, what's going on with this? If it's especially if it's not even in the title or the thumbnail, if it's something that's happening in gaming, feel free to bring it in and bring it up. So Assassin's Creed Shadows, according to Insider Gaming, is being delayed not just for bugs and glitches. I predicted and speculated. I said, I wonder if they're going to address some of the mistakes they made with, like, the architecture. Some of the buildings were wrong. There were icons and symbols on flags and stuff that were wrong. They were putting stuff in the game that was at some level, whether or not you want to agree. At some level, there were people from Japanese culture saying this is offensive. Well, it apparently was not something that they were careful with. And I continued to say that a while ago. I told you guys, I was like, listen, I'm not going to rail against this game. I'm not going to be all angry that Yasuke's in the game. Like, those aren't things I largely care about. But I did say, as far as I can tell, Ubisoft was not careful. Sucker Punch was, like, incredibly careful with Ghost of Tsushima. They were honored. They're official ambassadors of Tsushima because the people there loved the game and how their island and culture was treated. And this felt very different. Well, according to Insider Gaming, they brought in the historical experts really late. So they brought them in way later than they should have been brought in, and there wasn't enough time. So there was miscommunication, there was corner cutting. So what they're going to be doing between now and the delayed release date is they're going to be addressing elements of Yasuke's story and how he's represented. He's not being removed like some people said. So he will be adjusted. They're going to be adjusting some of the architecture and other elements of the game that were woefully inaccurate. They will also be addressing late development problems, bugs, and glitches because the size and scope of the game, it's apparently a very, very big game. So that's why Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed. They weren't like, oh gosh, Ghost of Yote scared us. They weren't like, oh man, we really got to, fix a couple of bugs. It's a combination of things. So thanks to, Tom Henderson and the team at Insider Gaming for that information. That was reported on yesterday. And the game's in Vietnam now. No, I don't think they're going to change locations. So, I didn't care about the character. I care about the agenda to rewrite history by telling us he was an actual samurai and that stupid novel that people ran to. Yeah, I mean, the difficulty with the novel is it's compelling, right? It looks legitimate. So you think, I was like, oh yeah, check that out. My issue with claiming that they're trying to like rewrite history, there have been plenty of, cartoons, TV shows, and other games where he has shown up and no one has ever taken an issue. Like, I genuinely think we're getting to a point where we are overreacting. There have been some bad efforts, bad actors, and bad things done to games in the name of, like, things that people want to see happen. But I do think a lot of it just gets overstated and it gets exaggerated. Because, the stories aren't historical. I mean, George Washington is a king in the one Assassin's Creed DLC. Did anybody get really angry about that and say that he wasn't a king? Well, he's not a king historically. Well, of course not. And the Pope's not a wizard either, and he's a wizard in one of the games. So it's like, I think that I can set aside. I don't care. I don't care if the character is historically accurate or not. What I cared about was you stepped into a culture and a time and you messed basic things up like the buildings. It's like those are things. Listen, according to Insider Gaming, Ubisoft apparently has a very strict asset approval process, and that just didn't happen this time because they brought in the historical experts late. So there wasn't just that novel. There were other historians that came out and said that he had been considered a samurai, and other pieces of entertainment, too, referred to him as a samurai. Yeah, there were plenty of things beyond that novel that were like, or beyond that book or whatever you would classify it as. There were plenty of people that were coming to say, hey, a lot of people were theorizing that this guy would have been considered a samurai because he's described as a warrior. In at least 2 things that I read, he was described as a warrior. And I think we got too stringent on the word samurai. It's like, well, he wouldn't have been an official samurai. It's like, well, maybe it was used generically. I don't know. I'm not an expert. And that's why I just generally didn't care all that much. I had an agenda. I mean, you can think that. I don't think that. I definitely think that what happened was crunch happened. Right? I think classic scope creep Ubisoft crunch happened, and I think all the historical stuff that they jacked up, it all just piled up and made it look worse and worse and worse. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the hip hop is gone when the game releases, because they did say they're going to be addressing how he's portrayed, and I would not be surprised at all if they're going to remove the hip hop, because nobody thought that was a good idea. I mean, except for the team of, well-intended white guys that probably thought it was a good idea. Like, nobody else thought that was a good idea. The minute it happened, I looked at chat and I was like, are you serious? Like, we were all like, are you serious, man? Come on, what are we doing here? So I would not be surprised at all if the hip-hop gets removed. And then they're going to fix some of the buildings and some of the other historical things that they messed up. It wasn't just the book. We're not relegating his status because a dude's from Middle America who barely passed high school got mad. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like debating that. I really don't feel like debating that. It just, there are people that are going to be mad. There were people that got mad when Ghost of Yotei, the protagonist, was a woman. I just don't care to debate these people. It's like, I don't know. I thought Angry Joe said it really, really well. He was like, listen, if you're going to look for games that only have people that align with your values making them, and only have people that align with your values as the actors, you're not going to be able to play very many games. Right? I thought Joe Vargas was on point. He was looking at the Mighty Keith tweet about the whole Ghost of Yotei thing. And he said the same thing. He was like, I'm just so tired of this. It just isn't a debate it's not even a discussion worth having. It just really isn't. 2 years ago, if the Ghost of Yotei trailer would have hit, nobody would have batted an eye. But now we're very reactionary. It's like everything must be, you know, some kind of another thing. And it's like, or maybe they just wanted to have a different character. Like, maybe that's as simple as that, you know? Angry Joe is an overweight beta male. What a dizzying display of intellect. That's called ad hominem. Like, if you want to argue with what he said, argue with what he said. You just insulted him with just sort of like a... Essentially, that's you admitting you don't have an argument. That's the coward's way of discussing anything, is to just insult somebody. Rudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength. Like, that's not... You're not conveying anything other than your own immaturity. Like, what he said is true. If you're only going to support games that are made by people who align with your values, if you're only going to play games where all the voice actors align with your values, you're not going to be able to play very many games. Like, you just aren't. Like, do it. Research every game, research every studio, every CM, every voice actor, and only play games that check all of your boxes, which is ironic, isn't it? To be like, well, I don't want to support a game that doesn't check all my boxes. Oh, so you have boxes that need to be checked. That's interesting. That's interesting, right? That, like, you see what I'm saying? It's like, listen, man, I'm here to play video games. Like, concerning myself with the actor from Ghost of Yote, she's been in so many games. She's been in so many games. Like, has she ruined those games because she thinks things that you don't agree with? Like, I'm not bothered. I'm very nonplussed with people who don't think the way that I think on these things. It doesn't bother me. I've watched so many TV shows and movies with actors that I think are just two fries over the limit. Like, they have just enough fries in the basket that they're not cuckoo. Like, some of these actors in Hollywood are a little nuts. And I don't agree with their views on much of anything. But, buddy, can they act? And they can make a really great movie. Right? Some of these dudes are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I'll still watch them kick the crap out of somebody or drive a fast car or shoot guns. Like, I will watch a movie and be like, this is great. I don't care what the beliefs or view of the actor or the director is. I don't care. Have you seen some of these people and what they say on Twitter from Hollywood? These people are nuts a lot of the times. But I'm like, brother, that movie was awesome. So, like, I'm here to be entertained. I'm not here to have my values affirmed. I don't approach movies, TV shows, or video games to have my values affirmed. That's not what I'm here for. Right? I have a place of worship and a community for that. If I want to be around people that agree with me, I have friends. I have a place of worship for that. I don't come to a video game to be like, well, I better have my values affirmed. What? I come to be entertained. I want to see heads chopped off. I want to see awesome combat and amazing story arcs. That's what I come to video games and movies and TV shows for. So if someone's like, yeah, but they did this and they thought that and they said this in an email. And I'm like, I don't care. Is the game good? How are the controls? How are the graphics? How's the performance? How's the story? That's what I care about. I paid $70 to play a good game, not have my values affirmed. Like, I don't believe in the way of the samurai. I'm a 21st century white male American Christian. So, but I enjoyed a game with the samurai in it. I wasn't like, well, you know, his thoughts about honor and duty are actually a little bit overstated, and it actually is sort of a self-referential way of building yourself up. It's actually ironically not self-sacrificial. It's sort of a way of self-aggrandizing your way through sort of a false sense of humility, and obsessing over honor and strength actually doesn't typically work in my, you know, more 21st century Western viewpoint of justice, and I'm not doing that. I played a great game. I had a great time. Like, do you see what I'm saying? I had a wonderful time in Tsushima. It's like one of my favorite games. And I not once was like, oh, but there are things in the game that go contrary to my beliefs. Of course there is. Of course there is. I think we've reached a point where you've got to ask yourself the question, what are you trying to get out of YouTube and video games? What are you trying to get? Because I'm trying to get entertainment. And if a really great game, I'll give you an example. I played Destiny for a really, really long time. And the developer and their social efforts and their, political grandstanding, I didn't agree with any of it. It didn't suddenly make the game bad. I wasn't like, well, the game sucks now. These guns don't feel as good. They're loading these guns with woke bullets. It was like... Now, some people would argue that they started to implement elements of that kind of stuff into their storytelling, which hurt the storytelling. I wasn't playing the game when that happened. I stopped playing the game in early 2021 because, I was unjustly banned and never told why. So, but even before that, I was like, I don't agree with everything that they're doing. I don't agree with everything that they're saying. These guys are on the opposite end of the spectrum for me on many things, but I still enjoyed the game. Yep, Boris just said it rather succinctly. Bungie's weird, but the gunplay is just so damn good, right? It's like, you're like, the gunplay is awesome, bro. There's a lot of things in Baldur's Gate 3 that in other games would be labeled as a problem. It would be labeled as woke. But nobody cares because Baldur's Gate 3 is just such a freaking good game. You just eat around that and ignore it. I guarantee you there are people screaming about certain things in games that have put a bunch of time into Baldur's Gate 3. Why? Because it's a good game. And then you look past the bad stuff in quotations. You look past the bad stuff from your opinion and you just enjoy the game anyway. Yo, good morning, feed. So, do you see what I'm doing? I'm staying at 30,000 feet. I don't care to debate this with people. I don't care to debate, Atsu in Ghosts of Yote or Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows or, all these other games that have come out. I don't even care. Top Surgery Scars in Dragon Age, the Veilguard, because, buddy, would I love to just go full steam ahead on that one. I just don't care. It isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. If I play Dragon Age Veilguard and it's a good game and I have a good time, I don't give a frick about the character creator. Right? I don't give a frick about the character creator if the game is good. I don't care. That's fine. They wanted to do that. I don't think that's needed, and I have my own thoughts about it, but game was good. Baldur's Gate 3 won game of the year. I think so. To me, I'm going to try to always just hover above this nonsense and be like, you know what? I don't really care if the game is good, it's good. If the game is bad, it's bad. I don't give my money to people who overly try to pander. I don't care if you pander a little, but there's a limit. So what direction can they pander though, Severin? Like, what if they came out with a game like, Space Marine 2 was praised for this, right? It's just grisly and manly, and it feels like this visceral return to what made great games. Well, if you make a game that panders to that audience, is that a problem? Think of this from a purely economic standpoint with me. All right? We're doing a good job of not getting into like the mudslinging nonsense that just isn't beneficial. Just think with me for a second. In an economic situation, if somebody brings their game to market and it's like uber progressive and there's all kind of messaging in it and there's very clear ideals and worldviews present, and their game fails commercially, then you don't have to do anything other than say, well, clearly there was not a large enough target audience for that game. Do you see? if a game comes out and it's like visceral and tough and it's all about what we used to play, you know, it's basically like Duke Nukem, hot women and bullets, and it sells like crazy, okay, then the economic reality of that means there's an audience for this. Do you see? So they both have pandered. Have they not? Who do you think Stellar Blade was pandering to? Who? Old women in quilting bees, or young men who like to stare at women's bodies and they think that, you know, a hot character is important? If that's what you want to do, if that's what you want in your game, they made a game for you. Do you see? If you think about it from an economic standpoint, it's like, listen, they're all pandering. It's a matter of, is there an audience for it? And if there's an audience for it, then you can't really argue with it. Can you? You can't. You can't argue with it. I don't think anybody would have thought like traditional CRPG turn-based style game would have this big resurgence like it did with Baldur's Gate 3. But there's clearly an audience. Like, I wouldn't have thought that if somebody would have said, oh yeah, the game of the year is going to be like a more traditional D&D, you know, turn-based style game. I'd be like, really? You know, I thought those games weren't that popular anymore. I would have been incorrect, right? There's a huge audience for it. Thank you. They're all pandering. It's not necessarily bad. It's business. Right. So we've seen this fail. We've seen this fail just at a huge level for Disney, right? They thought they could go and get a new audience. They thought they could go and find a more modern, more feminine, more female-dominated audience. And they didn't. Right? They didn't find that. So, you know, if you think in that realm, I think it's easier to just be like, don't be so bothered by this stuff. Speak with your wallet. Your wallet's louder than your voice anyway. Those economic realities are probably going to show you that you don't really have anything to worry about. I think there are far more men in the gaming space that are going to respond very positively to like a Space Marine 2 and respond very negatively to a game that feels like it's not really for them. So you'll continue to get those games. You'll continue to get games that just are more about what more of a traditional man values, like being tough and being valiant. Like, and all of those are good things, but like not every game's going to be that way. There are going to be games that are clearly built for children too, right? Like there are games that are clearly not targeting you. Like, were you incensed when they made Bluey into a video game? Or like, I can't believe this. I'm not going to play that. That's not for me. No. I think if you start to see it that way, you're like, listen, there are folks who are trying to bring games to the market with story elements, character elements, you know, worldview and views of reality, right? They're trying to bring their views to bear on the game, and it'll either work or it won't. You know, it'll either work or it won't. I think in a very, very quick amount of time, a lot of these studios have learned it's better to leave this stuff kind of out of the game. It's just better to do it. You know what I mean? The issues are too divisive. All you end up doing is like making people say, well, I don't know if I want to buy that. Space Marine 2 leans into the prototypical male fantasy about duty, stoicism, and sacrifice. I'd love more, please. Right. And I think people will continue to make games like that. Why? Because there's demand for it. There's demand for it. I don't think you have to worry about that, because I don't think we're going anywhere, are we? I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. We love gaming. We're going to keep playing games. And so I don't think that there's this massive turn of the industry. I think a couple of games wore their wore their views on their sleeve, and I think in wearing their views on their sleeve, they learned some pretty valuable lessons. I think they did. I think they learned valuable lessons of like, listen, when you put that in your game, you're probably gonna create divisive touchstones for your game that aren't going to be helpful for the sales of your game. Muku says, you're the first person I've heard that isn't radical in either direction, and the way you view it and phrased it was perfect. It helped me see things in a new perspective. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to view it from the status of we're not in any danger. Like, don't let people convince you that like you're under threat or there's a danger here, or like, don't operate out of fear and emotion. I think that's one of the ironies of the situation is I see a lot of people championing masculinity and they're acting like emotionally unstable boys. It's like the irony of being really upset that the lead character's a woman doesn't convey masculinity to me. It doesn't. The calm and the resolute and the thoughtful and the wise, that to me is masculine. What's masculine is not reactionary. You know, it's not emotionally driven or even sort of hate driven. Like, that to me isn't masculine at all. And I think that's what's getting lost in the shuffle, is you're sort of being provoked into a lot of anger and a lot of emotional response. And I don't think it's good for you. Sadly, I think there is a massive turn because the values you listed either are viewed as toxic nowadays. But what pays the bills, Havoc? Can they pay the bills with their views on what's toxic? No, they can't. Right? Like, to me, it's like, I literally don't think you have to worry about there being sort of this massive vacancy in the market for games that are just awesome. You just want a great game with great action like Armored Core or Space Marine 2. You know, I don't think you're going to suddenly have an absence of that. If you really like Stellar Blade or Rise of the Ronin or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the companies are going to keep, the companies that see the money to be made, they're going to keep doing it. Yo, Captain Toasty Buns with 33 months, welcome back. Thank you so much. Guys, take a quick second and smash the like button. Great turnout today, 700 people, and we're all over the place. Gaming news today is really what I would like to start doing with the live show, where we just sort of talk about all the different gaming news topics in a respectful way, in an enjoyable way. We've been all over the place today. We've talked Starfield. We're talking a little AC Shadows right now, why it's been delayed. Star Wars Outlaws. I put some games on your radar at the beginning of the stream, some games you should definitely check out or add to your wish list. Take a quick second and smash the like button. Let's get to 300 likes. And to be on pace for the member goal, we want this hit to hit 200 today. And remember, every 25 I give 5. You can help move this by renewing. So check and see if you have a renewal to celebrate. But it has to be a member plus or a VIP. I can't add standard members to here because those can be gifteds. It's like South of Midnight. I think South of Midnight looks incredible. Did you see that South of Midnight had a metal band come in and like metal vocalists help them make the sounds for the monsters and stuff? That's awesome. Like, imagine being angry and being like, South of Midnight's woke. And they're like, what are you talking about? We brought metal vocalists into the studio to make the monsters sound cool. That's pretty tough. You know? That's pretty awesome. That doesn't sound woke to me. Yo, Skiffy Skiffles with 3 years renews his membership to 114. Thank you so much. The guy in the studio was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was like, yeah. I was like, you know what? That's really smart. These guys can kind of bring it, you know? What band? I forget. I forget what the band was. But I saw that in my feed. I was like, yo, that's dope. You know? I need to find... Let's see if I can find it. They had a clip of the guy. Do you listen to death metal? I don't listen to death metal, but I do enjoy some of the metal that's out there. Like, I like August Burns Red. I'm not like a huge metalhead. South of Midnight Metal. Let's see if I can find it. Oh man. Metal was it vocalist? I can never find the tweet later. You know, I need a better way of finding these tweets. I forget who I saw that had tweeted it. It might have been Jez Corden that tweeted it, and he said, like, this is awesome or something. I forget where I saw it now. Oh, you're a massive metalhead? Have you seen the study to say metal is like one of the most calming music out there? Really? It's calming? I mean, I've always felt like after I listen to metal for a while, I feel kind of exhausted and tired. The Monster Factory, they are doing the vocals for South of Midnight. That's who's doing it. Monster Factory is a professional wrestling school located in Paulsboro. It's considered to be the first publicly professional wrestling school. The tweet I saw said they were like metal vocalists, not wrestlers. Did I completely misread the tweet? I thought it said that they were metal vocalists, not wrestlers. I listen to Slipknot to calm down, but I'm pretty weird. I mean, dude, you listen to whatever you want to listen to calm down. Impending Doom is a good band. Listen to DEFCON 1 then. I guess the theory is that it's like, since it's like screaming, you're getting your anger out, so you're calming down. Huh. I agree about overreacting about women characters, hence why I walked away from the anti-woke crowd. The look of masculinity is toned down significantly than it was in the 2000s, 80s, and the 90s. I'm not sure what you mean, that it's been toned down. They are metal vocalists, I think, by law. They're also considered wrestlers. Excuse me. We talk about Outlaws. I want it to be so good. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Outlaws. We totally can talk about Outlaws. Because, like, they almost, I mean, probably a little bit too little too late, but they almost immediately addressed some of the core issues that I had issues with in the game. I was like, dude, the stealth is so not fun. Like, and the solutions are terrible. It doesn't even make any sense. It's like, so I'm supposed to be sneaking around, right? It doesn't feel super sneaky to run up to some stormtrooper and punch him in the head or to use Nyx. It always felt weird. Like, to me, I didn't feel like I was solving a stealth problem. I felt like I was stumbling into the solution and being like, well, that doesn't seem very logical. Like, what you want to do is, when you're making a stealth game, you want the solution to feel intuitive to the environment. So when I'm sitting in tall grass and I'm using a bow to take out somebody, you know, to take out somebody that's like, oh, they're up on a perch, or they're up on a tree, or, you know, they're going to turn an alarm on or something. Like, that's intuitive to the environment. You just sort of know instinctively to do it. Star Wars Outlaws, none of it's intuitive. She's like barely hiding, and she's like in an Imperial base, and she's like barely hiding behind like a box. And if anybody sees you, it's over. If anybody sees you, it's an automatic fail. And the solution a lot of the times was to run at the stormtrooper and punch them in the face. It's like, I don't know to do that because the game's not like, it's not intimating that to me. It's not signaling that to me. That doesn't seem to be like the logical choice, right? It would be like playing, you know, Ghost of Tsushima and them expecting you to know, well, the logical choice here is to charge the really, really big guy and push him over. You'd be like, wait, what? That doesn't seem like a good idea. That seems like he would just get back up. It just seems like he would stand back up and then attack me and it would be over. Did you know you could stealth in T-Lu? Shut up. So to me, it's like the game never once felt logical or sensible. You got to get more upgrades. That's one of the worst defenses of a game ever. If your game sucks until I get upgrades, then your game sucks. And they have quite literally agreed with me. They have said that they're trying to adjust those stealth missions and those fail rates because, listen to me, you can be like, oh, skill issue, you must suck. They clearly saw the fail rates were way too high. The fail rates were too high, the quit rates were too high, and they're trying to make adjustments. Yeah, I agree with Wheezy. That game is deeply flawed. That game is deeply flawed. I'm not defending it. I mean, I just assumed that you were, because you're like, well, you got to get more upgrades. Well, that's not a solution. That's an alleviation of bad design. Well, we made stealth terrible and your character's dumb. But if you get some upgrades, you know. Yeah, there's the tweet right there. Compulsion Game says, fun fact, our haints are voiced by metal singers. Our wonderful, talented friends at the Monster Factory helped us bring the guttural sounds of the brute haint to life. Yeah. Yeah, Compulsion Games officially tweeted that they used metal singers for their game. That's freaking awesome, bro. Some of the opening parts are hard. What do you think is better, Outlaws or Starfield? They're not really games that I would compare. You know what's funny, DeFloyd? I wouldn't even describe it as hard. I would describe it as stupid. Like, if you make a stealth encounter that's poorly designed to where it's really, really easy for me to get seen, and then that's the end, I wouldn't call that difficult. I would call that stupid. Like, you didn't design this very well. That would be like me designing an environment. And I'm like, in this environment, there's 85 cameras. And if a single camera sees you, you have to go back to the beginning. You'd be like, well, that's really, really hard. No, it's not. I sound like a moron. I've made it so strenuous and so the path of success so narrow that enjoyment goes out the window. You no longer feel like you're playing a video game. You feel like you're going through some sort of it's almost like you're product testing. It feels like you're product testing at that point. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I'm not trying to stoke those fires, Wheeze. You guys kept trying when I just wouldn't do it. Eugene says, go play Metal Gear Solid 5 and then play or watch Outlaws. Yeah, the checkpoints are also awful. You would make like the most minor mistake in Star Wars Outlaws, and then you got to go like all the way back to the beginning. That's not hard. That's dumb. You know what I mean? Oh, you finally got past that opening and the second part and the third part, and it's pretty frustrating. Well, the fourth part, you made a pretty minor mistake, so back to the beginning with you, sucker. It's like, what? I don't want to do this all over again. It's not even that fun. Checkpoints weren't that bad. There were checkpoints throughout the 4 stealth missions. They were pretty bad, Sven. They were pretty bad in the mission I was playing. They were pretty bad. I was like, what the heck's going on? What about if you got caught and now you have to break yourself out of the cell? Yeah, they just didn't. I mean, I don't agree. I know which mission you were playing. That was the worst of them. Okay, well, okay. I didn't get past that mission, Sven. It was so bad. I was like, I literally quit. I was like, I'm not playing this game. It's not good enough. It wasn't even like, okay, I'll eat around the fat. I'll go through this mission that I don't like because I'm enjoying the base game so much. No, I was like, I don't even like this game that much. You know, I'm not even having that good of a time with it. I'm not. I keep smudging these glasses, and I have no idea how. It's a BS mechanic. I hate forced stealth. I'm glad they're fixing it. I think forced stealth, like, has its place in a well-made stealth game. Right? In a well-made stealth game, I think it's fine when they're like, hey, no alarms. We can't have any alarms in here. If you set off an alarm, we're done. You know, there were Splinter Cell missions like that at times. And I am totally fine with that because, number one, it's a stealth game, and number two, it's usually a far better built stealth game. I think it's weird that it's a stealth game that was not sold as such. I'm telling you, it was my main concern before the game came out, Zuby. It was like they did too much. They're like, let's do space combat, let's do stealth, let's do cover-based combat, let's do vehicular combat, let's do open world, let's do dialogue. Like, and when you do that, it's like, okay, well, everything is going to be, you're basically a jack of all trades, master of none. It's like you just put everything in your game and none of it's that great. It's not that anything is particularly bad, it's that none of it's very good to begin with. So your stealth's kind of bad, not that great. Sometimes it's okay. Your combat's fine. You know, your space combat's, I guess, okay, but also not that great. Like, it's like they just did too much. If they would have taken all the time they focused on space combat and spent that time and bandwidth making the stealth better and then making the combat better, I think the game would have been significantly better. You don't need space combat in that. I think if you didn't quit in the beginning, you would have quit in the final mission because it turned into a chase sequence with a lot of wrong turns and starting over at checkpoints. Yeah, there's nothing worse than playing a game where success comes through trial and error. I never like that. I've never been a fan of run really fast. Oops, you went the wrong way. There was no way for you to know that you went the wrong way until you're dead. So then you're like, okay, so it's a right, left. You know, I learned the hard way. You know, stuff like that drives me crazy because it's like, okay, well, now I'm not interacting with the video game. I'm playing rock, paper, scissors with the developer. Like, oh, you chose wrong. You went left when you should have gone right. The last mission was BS. The difficulty bump was massive. It was so bad, says Donnie. People spend too much time asking why they aren't playing a certain game. You wouldn't ask a married person, why didn't you marry this person? Check my last, says Sneaky. Hang on. And the only reason we all deal with the Mary Jane missions is because the base game is so good. That's a great example and great comparison. Yes. I just looked past and ate around the fat. I was like, that's fine. You want to make me play these Mary John Wick, these Mary Jane Wick missions where her stun gun is basically as good as Spider-Man or as powerful as Spider-Man? That's fine. That's fine. I know I'm going to get back to the base game. In Spider-Man 1, where they make you crawl around as Mary Jane and take a couple pictures, it's like you put up with it because you know you're going to get back to the base game and you'll be swinging around as Spider-Man soon enough, and you're like, this is okay. There were people like, I'll be honest with you, I was not a big fan of the Riddler racing missions in Batman Arkham Knight. And Batman Arkham Knight's actually my favorite one. But there were times where I really, really was just extremely turned off by the... I was extremely turned off by the Riddler stuff. It was like, come on, man. But it was like, I was willing to do it because I knew I'd be back to swinging through the city and getting into fights and, you know. It was like I was willing to put up with content that I didn't like that much. You know, Arkham City is the GOAT. Yeah, I like Arkham Knight more. I liked Arkham City, but I remember liking Arkham Knight more. So, and again, I think that just comes down to preference. There are people that thought the Batmobile was in, you know, the Arkham Knight too much. I didn't agree. I thought the Batmobile combat was actually really enjoyable. I thought it was fun. They were almost like fun mini games. I get why people didn't like it, but I did. I typically don't like chase missions, and I thought the Batmobile chase missions were fine. Or complaining, I hate the Horizon horse racing bits. It's just a different game randomly in my action RPG. I don't think I ever did any of those in Horizon. I stopped playing Arkham the second they put me in the car. I noped out instantly. It was so bad. Oh, I loved it. Something about hopping out and running over people and hopping in when it was full motion. I loved it. I felt like it made me feel more like Batman than before. You know? I absolutely loved Outlaws. Once I figured out you have to get skilled enough to get the character good. I just didn't have any desire to deal with getting good in a Star Wars game. You know? The horse racing is a totally optional minigame thing. Really? Yeah, ejecting out of the Batmobile was fun. I loved it. I only did the horse missions in Horizon Forbidden West because they brought back my favorite NPC, Nil. Huh. I played the crap out of Arkham Knight, did the 100% ending to get the real ending. I got the 200% in Arkham Knight. I 200% of that. What did you do to get the 200%? I think, did you have to replay? I think you had to replay the game. I did all the rooftop challenges where you can't get hit once. You know? Just became a fan? Sure, yeah, you made your account 2 minutes ago. It's your third attempt at ban evading today. I love the Batmobile conversation for Arkham Knight, as it's the most requested thing, and the majority of the people just hate it after they got it. Classic gamer response. It could have been integrated better. Well, okay, here's the problem with this discussion, okay? Is YouTube having a problem right now? Are you guys having any issues or buffering? I'm seeing really weird stuff on the back end. Take a quick second, guys, and smash the like button. Gift some members. I'm not sure what's going on, if we're dealing with buffering or blips or something, but something's not right. Anyways, we haven't had any major issues today, so I wasn't sure if you guys were having a refresh. Here's my issue with the Batmobile, okay? What people wanted would have been stupid. Okay? Batman didn't need a car. Okay? He didn't need a car. It wasn't like, oh, well, let's just give him a way to drive around the city faster. I don't need that. If you were going to put a vehicle in Batman Arkham Knight to get me around the city faster, then just give me the Batwing and I'll just fly. Right? It made more sense to make the Batmobile an interactive, extension of Batman in the game. Like, I don't want to play a Batman game and be like, oh, I'm so glad they spent all this dev time giving me a car. I don't need a car. I can literally zip line over buildings and glide all the way to the other side of the island instead of like driving and having to turn left and then turn right. And oh yeah, you got to take 5th Street to get over there. He didn't need a car. Like, the Batmobile was, I think, an extension of the mythology of Batman. And a 5-bomb from Jen A. Thank you so much, Jen, taking us to 119. We've slowed down a little bit today, but if we hit 125, I owe you 5. If we hit 200, we'll be on pace for the week. Thank you guys so much. I think it was just a bit too much toward the end. Here's what I think. I think they shouldn't have put in the mission where you had to fight a boss in the Batmobile. I think everybody got to that point in the game. They weren't too keen on the Batmobile, and I think that fight pushed them over the edge. And they were like, frick this thing and frick this boss, because that boss fight was stupid. I think you remove needing it for things like opening doors. It cut out stealth. It cut out the stealth BS and you're good. You cut out the stealth BS stuff. Yeah, but he uses his car for stuff like that. He literally uses his car to like blow things up and rip things open. The Deadshot fight was lame to me after the Arkham Origins Deadshot fight. Oh, is that the one where you're like, he keeps shooting the gargoyles so that you can't stay up at the top? I think that's what happens in that fight. But yeah, that's what I think happened with the Batmobile. I think everybody got to that fight and they were already like not... They already kind of didn't like the Batmobile, and then that fight pushed them over the edge. And they were like, dude, this thing's stupid. Because the fight where you have to like sneak behind and like go really slow and like shoot him in the back and then run away, it was not enjoyable. It was like, okay, so I'm in a giant tank, he's in a giant tank, and I'm having to play a stealthy game of cat and mouse in a tank. Okay, got it. You know, like, just really, really dumb. Yeah, according to sources, Rocksteady's working on the next Batman game, yes. I personally would like to see them completely reset and start over and don't even try to get Mark Hamill. Don't do anything with Conroy because he's obviously gone. So I think they should just, set it in a completely different timeline and start over. If I blew a wall open with the Batmobile, that's fine. Wrenching it to the side of a building and then doing a cumbersome puzzle with it, jumping over platforms and then plugging it up to an elevator, no. Yeah, but that's stuff that Batman does. That's literally stuff that he does. He uses technology in situations like that all the time. I thought that was great. Yeah, Batman Beyond would be good. Is there any truth to the rumor that Sony's trying to get the new Batman game? I mean, the rumor that it was happening came baked in with the rumor that PlayStation was trying to get exclusive rights to it. I don't know. If Insomniac's not doing it, then if Insomniac's not doing it, you got Rocksteady doing it, then I really, really hope they can, return to form, because they did such a good job with the three Batman games they built. I felt like they just did such a stellar job. They needed to confirm it. People were mad that the next game is VR. That poor VR game, it's not their fault. They wanted to make a Batman VR game, and, they did. And it came at a time where Rocksteady decided to do something else that, miserably failed, Please let Cameron Monaghan voice Joker. Could be good. Keep sneezing today. There are so many aspects of the Batman mythos you can emphasize in different styles of games. Weezy says, it sucks most of the people that made those Arkham games don't exist at Rocksteady anymore. Well, I would hope they have still a lot of the institutional assets and pieces, of the combat and stuff. You know what I mean? I would not say poor VR game. It has not come out yet. Right, but the runway of their game coming out is a bunch of people being angry at their game. That's why I said that poor VR game. It's like they didn't do anything to deserve that. You know, it's not their fault that the Batman franchise, you know, came to a screeching halt and we got a bad Suicide Squad game. Anthony says, I'm loving the new format. This is way better. Listen, if you guys love this format and you keep showing up like this, we're going to keep doing it. So keep smashing like, keep the members rolling. I mean, this is so much better, I think, for the audience as well as for me than to be like stringently covering a topic. And then for the first hour at least, we like have to stay on that topic. We've talked about so many things today because there's always so much going on in gaming and there's only so much coverage I can do. So the turnout today has been really encouraging. It was really encouraging yesterday, you know. And one thing that'll definitely help is keeping smashing that like button. We get close to 700. We were above or right at 700 viewers today for how long? I don't even know how long. For at least 30 minutes. When we get that high, we got to have people hitting the like button. I think that's probably why viewership dropped because I wasn't hammering away at it. If you don't maintain good like ratio, I swear YouTube punishes you. They'll say they don't, but I think they do. I've noticed that before. If we get really, really high and we don't maintain good like ratio, we'll fall faster. I think they make you less prominent on the site when that happens. Dark Taco at 24 months on a member plus. New format superb. Well, thank you for 2 years, rounding us out nicely with your renewal to 120. Just a 5 bomb away from the first milestone of the day. Who at Rocksteady okayed these DLC characters? Yeah, it's 30 and Still Gaming had a pretty funny video, and he pointed out how she looks an awful lot like the girl from Redfall, and an awful lot like the girl in Concord, and an awful lot like the girl in Fortnite, and it's, yeah, there's some strange coincidences happening. All these characters looking eerily similar across all these games. Another creator I watch literally threatens to end the stream if people don't like. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, hey, I always try and say, hey, if you're enjoying the content, hit like. It helps other people find the video, you know. We'll get more folks in here to enjoy the content that you're also enjoying, so. Unreal Fest at noon. Oh, is there an event today with Unreal? I didn't know that. Isn't this just what you do on Fridays, but like every day now? Well, we wanted to run an experiment. We did it on Friday, but then an hour in, they cut my power to work on the power lines because of the storm. So we lost all of our momentum, obviously, because I had to end the stream. And then yesterday, we were having a day just like today. Like, we climbed up and had like 700 viewers, and I had to keep walking away because I had a plumber at my house. And so we didn't get a really good measurement of like how well it performed. And this did so well today. I'm happy. I'm happy to do this with you guys. And we'll still do uploads. Like, I still want to give, you know, a lot of thoughtful content and monologues and commentary on different subjects. But I can be a whole lot more choosy with when I do those if I feel like I can cover a broader spectrum of gaming news in the way that we're doing today. Destiny reveal? There's a Destiny reveal today? Lono lost power and then the plumber came. Yeah. Well, no, the plumber was great. It was great. I mean, he did hit a water line, and I had to run really, really fast and turn off the water main. Enjoying the general chat, to be honest. The reason I think that it'll probably help us, and the reason I think we're getting stronger response from the browse, which is people that are largely already subscribed, is because I think, like, if you see a topic in a game that you're not interested in, you're like, well, why would I go? But if you see gaming news today and you see a smattering of topics, and I continue to tell you, hey, you can bring up anything going on in gaming news, then I think more people will say, well, then I'll just show up every day. I don't have to skip an episode because they're talking about Horizon, and I don't like Horizon. You know what I mean? Yeah, all the plumbing got worked out. Yeah, he hurt himself because the people that did the plumbing work before, they put something in backwards, and he could not get it out. And he was a strong hombre, and he could not pull the thing out, and he hurt himself. His shoulder can pop out, and he hurt himself. So he had to call some other guys to come and help him. I felt really bad for him because he was really trying to get it done for me. Like, I really liked him. I'm like, man, you're really working, and then he hurt himself. He's like, man, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, don't say sorry. I'm sorry you got hurt. You know, I don't want you to get hurt. This is how you pay your bills. You know, I think he was okay. But the other guys came and they got it all straightened out. So everything's done. We're gonna have to get some drywall patching, but they did a really good job of keeping it. You know, it's a pretty small cut. It's not very big. Yo, 2Spot from Stone Spire. Thanks for the new style. Really enjoyable. Thank you. Let's get 50 more likes. Let's get 400 likes. Take a quick second and check and make sure you've saved your like. Hit that $sign at the bottom of the chat and see if you have a membership renewal to celebrate as well, because that helps us with our weekly goal. You don't have to gift members. You guys that are on Member Plus and VIP, we count your memberships as well. His pop back will be sore for a few hours. Oh, yeah, which means it's going to be even harder for him to work. So that's why he had to call and get help. Thoughts on Monster Hunter Wilds PC requirements? Thoughts on console release given the PC requirements? Yeah, I mean, you guys are free to ask me questions like that. You could even here, let me clear out the member queue. Now's a good time for members to use the question command. Now's a great time to gift some members so new people can try out the question command. YouTube's been scamming you out of your renewal super chat? That's lame. Anyways. So as far as the Monster Hunter Wilds thing, I think it's becoming pretty clear that Capcom is not hyper-focused on optimization, and if they are, I think they're having issues with the engine. Because like Dragon's Dogma 2, still not in a great place on PC, according to the score. And I think we're going to have similar issues with Monhunt. I don't think it's going to run very well, based on everything we're seeing. I think it's going to have issues on PC and console. Like, their games, they had a recent batch of games, and they were the ones that everybody would run to. Whenever I would say multi-plat games always had more problems than games that were built for one system, everybody would invoke Capcom. Well, they're not invoking Capcom now. Do you want to talk about Dragon's Dogma 2 in a couple of weeks? Are you going to want to talk about Monhunt Wilds? I don't think you're going to want to. Even Capcom is now proving that when you build a game for one system, you tend to get better results. And I think they're running into issues with the engine. I don't think the engine's great for open world. I think what D Masta is saying is correct. Yo, good morning, feed. God bless all plumbers. I love tradesmen. I really do. I do. I love tradesmen. Every man is a genius in an area that I am not. And good golly, am I thankful for tradesmen when something like that happens. It's like, I would never have been able to do any of that. I don't care how many YouTube videos I could find. I would not have been equipped to fix any of the stuff that guy fixed. Yeah. Now it's like, well, who's Capcom? What are you talking about? Is today all about Starfield DLC? Oh, Jack is saying, if today would have been all about the Starfield DLC, I would have skipped the coverage. Don't care for the game one bit. Right. So we were able to talk about Starfield Shattered Space and the reviews, but you didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to skip that show. So we got to talk about it, but we didn't have to live there. I like this new format as well. I hope we can continue doing this. Apparently they showed it at Tokyo Game Show on console and people got to play it. Yeah, I saw a couple of tweets where people were like, yeah, here's Monster Hunter running at a lock 60 on the PS5. And I'm like, I saw at least 3 frame drops. What the frick are you talking about? Like, I think some of these PlayStation guys need to chill on the BS of, oh yeah, the game runs perfectly fine. No, shut up. No, stop it. Stop saying Black Myth Wukong runs perfectly fine on PlayStation. Quit it. Stop saying that Final Fantasy 16 was fine in performance mode. Stop it. Stop. Be honest. Like, don't waste everybody's time with this nonsense. I got so much grief for pointing out the abysmal state of Black Myth Wukong's performance mode, because I had guys out here, stumping for PlayStation, be like, no, it runs perfectly fine. It's perfectly smooth. It's great. No, it's not. It's an abuse of technology that leads to a terrible experience. Quit it. Do not do the same thing that the other side has done. You do the platform a disservice when you act like something is totally fine that's not. Don't do that. For real, you were one of the few content creators that was honest about Final Fantasy 16. I'm telling you, you're gonna do that same thing where you act like everything's fine, and then they'll fix it, and then what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say when they fix it? If it wasn't a problem, then why'd they fix it? If they make something better, then then how could you claim that there was no problem? I'm tired of hearing about Wukong for sure, because it's completely wrong. Even the quality mode has issues with the game, so stop the cap. Yeah, I'm glad you said it. I can't say stop the cap. That sounds weird coming from me, but you said it. Come on. What are we doing here? FF16 and Wukong performance sucked on the PS5, but the story was immaculate in both. That's what kills me, Mike. That's what kills me. I was like, dude, I was loving FF16. I was vibing with Wukong, and I was like, what's happening? It's running so poorly. I couldn't do it. You can say it. It's okay. Oh, I'm allowed to say it? I'll say it with you. You just said it? No, I read it. That's different. If I read it, it's different than me saying it. It's very different. FF16 ran terrible with crazy motion blur at launch. Even someone like me who actually can look past it got a bit sick with the moving camera. Yeah. I was loving the story in Final Fantasy 16. It killed me to put that game down. I was like, dude. Pretty sure I've heard Lono say he was in the trenches before. Stop the cap is alright. Yeah, but in the trenches is like an old term. Black Myth Wukong visually looks like hot bubbling caca in performance mode, and I want that game to be good. That's what I'm saying. Don't do what the other side has done. Don't gloss over this crap. They all defended 30 FPS, right? Don't do that. Don't defend bad performance, especially when you have games that come out with immaculate performance. Black Myth Wukong should not be at the level of those other games because it's not. It has issues. Careful, it might be illegal to read. Yeah, I better not read any public viewable chat logs. I'll get threatened with litigation by someone who lost a debate so handedly. He started emailing me threats. There's a law against doing that. Yeah, can you cite the law? Oh gosh, what a buffoon. I grit my teeth with FF16 and Dragon's Dogma to play those games. I love them, but I can't help but hope they were good. Baseball cap or no baseball cap, this game is very awake, and it is clear the devs were cooking in the kitchen. I'm bypassing all the PC Master Race jokes I could make at this time, because I'm taking the week off for a bit. Anybody else that wants to run with it, go ahead. You're on notice for my comments, I dare you. Yeah, Axe of Eugene, my comments are private. I didn't even see that you did that. He literally said, mark my words. He said... I couldn't believe he typed mark my words. I was like, oh my gosh. We will serve papers. Oh, man. I've encountered a lot of people over the years doing this. And some people really go full. They just go full. You know what I mean? He says in that movie, never go full retard. And these guys are like, I'm going to go full. I'm going for it. I'm swinging for the fences. Yeah, you will rue the day. Yeah, when he said mark my words, I've really wanted to bring back you will rue the day. You guys know this. I think it's great. You know, I want to bring that one back. You will rue the day. Mark my words is an ironic thing to say when you want your words to be private. Mark my words, except you better not. I think a lot of us just don't see the frame drops that you mention, or it's just not as noticeable to some people. Black Myth Wukong isn't bad for me, so the criticism seems exaggerated. I can't see it. It's not a matter of even seeing it, though. The game technically drops inputs. Like, it drops your inputs. And there's noticeable input latency. Like, it's not a matter of not... I mean, I think you are correct, James, that there are people that are less sensitive to it, and God love you. I wish I was like you. I wish I would have rolled credits on Wukong, but I couldn't do it. I wish I would have rolled credits on Final Fantasy 16, but I couldn't do it, brother. No, I didn't get platinum for Astro. I'm gonna never get a platinum because I just love to trigger the trophy checkers. You know what I mean? Those sniveling weirdos on Twitter that like check your trophies and they're like, he's not a real gamer. Touch grass. What are you talking about? Like, I'm never gonna get a platinum. Yeah, I got two Darkness. I was able to get it in pre-order 2 PS5 Pros. I got one for me as well as for my wife on each of our accounts. The secret final level is so good. It's good. It's tough. I finally got it. It took me, I don't know, maybe it took me under 20 tries. I did it on stream with you guys. I had already tried it maybe 6 or 7 times before, and it was a day where I was like getting ready to grill out and I was starving. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna do this. I'm hungry. Like, when I'm hungry, I can't do something like that. That's like super challenging. Can't do it. Been gaming 40 years, no platinum. Yeah, it's like I never used the Touch of Malice. I never got the Touch of Malice in Destiny, and it always drove people crazy that like I helped people through the King's Fall raid and never got the Touch of Malice. I'm gonna do the same thing with platinums. Like, I'm just never gonna get one. So anytime they trophy check me, I'm like, yeah, I don't care. You know what I mean? Took like 30 minutes to beat the final level of Astrobot. The final level or the final channel level? Come on, you should make Astro your only platinum. No. I love getting trophy checked by weirdos. And then they're like, the guy doesn't have any platinums. Like, I want it to be crystal clear to them that I'm not like them. I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm like them. They're weird. They're unsettling. I don't want anybody to ever... I want them to be like, oh, he's not like me at all. Yes, good, thank you. I don't want you to ever think that we're the same, because we're not. You're weird, and you harass people. Like, you're disturbing. The balance mode on Wukong will probably be 60. Hopefully. I never prestige in COD. When I played COD, yeah, I think I prestige once. Lone, I've been gone for a bit. I want to hear your take on Shade. Shade, is that a game? Or are you asking just in general about, like, throwing shade? I don't throw shade. I am the shade. I don't know. I think the input latency and input dropping may be exaggerated for PS5 because having played the game on PC, I did notice that there is a fair bit of animation locking and button presses. I mean, it was literally happening. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You talking about shade on a hot summer day? I mean, shade on a hot summer day is great. I love it. Give me more of it. Obsessive trophy hunting ruins the fun of playing a game for me. Well, I mean, this might sound weird, but like, I don't play games for the approval of weird strangers on Twitter. Like, I'm never like, you know, I better finish this. I better get this trophy, you know, because some weird sniveling guy on Twitter is going to call me out if I don't. Like, I play games to have fun. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, I better get all these trophies in Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. No, I've got 16 hours in Deep Rock Galactic. I've got 20 of the 35 achievements. I only know that because I just checked. I don't pay attention to that. I literally just pulled up Steam. I don't care. I'm not playing Deep Rock Galactic for the trophies. I'm playing it because it's fun. You know? People say your opinion's invalid if you don't finish a game. That's fine. I think that their opinion is stupid. So I just move on. I'm like, oh, you think that? That's fine. I think what you think is stupid. And I just move on. It's like, I don't need your approval. Not you in chat. I don't need their approval to talk about anything. You know? The last I checked, I don't need the permission of weirdos on the internet to do anything. Like, obsessive weirdos don't have power. Like, that's why they act the way that they do. They're just powerless, pathetic people. I don't need their permission. Like, well, you know, I can't talk about Astrobot. I didn't get a platinum. It's like, huh? You could play a game for 20 hours and not even scratch the surface of it. And you can give your thoughts on it and give your first impressions and talk about why you thought the combat was good or bad. Like, what in the frick? Have you ever been playing a game and your friend's like, yo, is that game any good? And you're like, I haven't finished it yet. Yeah, but you've been playing it for a week. You played for like 20 hours. How is it? No, I can't talk about it until I beat it. We wouldn't act that way in any other circumstance. You know? My brother games with no headset and plugs the Ethernet cable into his smart TV instead of his console. I can't live like this. I would come. I remember back when we got a brand new TV. We got a plasma. We switched from a projection TV to a plasma when we moved. And I would come home and my wife would be watching television. And all you had to do, if, like, let's say she was watching one of her favorite shows on TLC. Like, she always loved those big medicine shows where they would, like, be helping some really, really obese person lose a bunch of weight. She loved those shows. I couldn't watch them. They were nasty because they would show the surgery footage and stuff. And I was like, huh. I was like, I can't see blood. Or no, I can see blood. I can't see, like, the insides of somebody or, like, broken bones. I just get woozy. Even thinking about it, I get woozy. So let's say she's watching, like, one of her favorite shows. Well, with the way cable was back then, if the television channel was 31, all you had to do was go to 1031 and you'd get the HD version, right? It would fill the entire screen and the quality of the picture would be so much higher. I can't tell you how many times I came home from work and she'd be watching the standard version. I'm like, Mama, we bought a new TV. What are you doing? What are you doing? She's like, well, I don't notice it. And then I would take her to the better channel and she'd be like, oh. I'm like, babe, whatever channel you're on, just make sure you're in the thousands. If it's 31, if it's 47, it doesn't matter. Whatever channel you're on, all you got to do is add 1,000 and you will be seeing the HD version. Now she doesn't really have a choice. Like, there's nothing like that now. Is that Millie Bobby Brown? What is this? The Russo brothers, The Electric State, follows an alt history where Walt Disney animatronics led to intelligent robots who revolted against the creator. Mr. Peanut will be voiced by Woody Harrelson. Looks like they got Millie Bobby for it. They're just going to throw her in everything until people get sick of her. I mean, I like her. I think she's great, but they're just throwing her in every movie now. Achievement farming to see how big my gamer score could get to talk crack to my friends was something we did in middle school. I got kids and stuff now, right? Like, I think it's totally fair if somebody's claiming a game is great and they've played it for an hour, right? They're just out here, you know, simping for the game. I think checking playtime is totally legitimate. You can check my playtime on games. I've never bristled at that. I'm always like, I play tons of games. I put a ton of time in games. Like, I've probably played more games this year than I ever have. I've allocated time for it. I made adjustments in my schedule because I was like, okay, if we're going to be doing variety coverage, I do need to do a better job about, like, actually playing games. That's why I could recommend RoboQuest and Deep Rock Galactic, Survivor, and, what was the other game? And Witchfire, right? I'm trying to play all these different games. So that's something I've made allotments for. So, because I think that's fair to be like, if you're going to say this game is great or this game sucks, you have to at least have playtime in the game. I think trophy checking is weird energy. You didn't get a platinum. Shut the frick up. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't run around and pick up 18 flowers in every region of the game because I don't care about that kind of thing. But if I played the game for 50 hours, I can talk about it. Like I can say, like with Ghost of Tsushima, right? Ghost of Tsushima is hard to hour check, though, because you have to check the PS4 version and then the director's cut and add them together. It's not like unified my playtime in those games. How is Witchfire? I can't figure out what's going on with my controller on my living room rig. I don't know what I did in here in Steam, but when I play in the living room, it's terrible. Like, whenever I move, it's like, if I'm using both joysticks, it's like tick, 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 tick. If I stand still and just spin the camera, totally fine. If I move around with the mouse and the keyboard, totally fine. There is something in Steam that I have that's set wrong. I tried an Xbox controller. I tried a DualSense controller. I couldn't play it. It was terrible. I don't know what's going on. It's almost like it's reading the controller as a mouse. It's like it's reading the controller as a mouse. Like, I would move the joystick and my character would go bing and it would look at the ceiling. And then bing, look at the floor. And I'm like, what is going on? It was like registering like a mouse with the DPI maxed. I was like, what is happening? Send me your PC specs on that one after stream. I don't know if it's the PC specs, double inputs. Right, it was like as soon as I used both joysticks on the controller, it went to hell. I was like, what's going on? I've never had this experience. You have to disable Steam input because the game natively supports the controller, I believe. Yeah, but I did that. I went to, let me tell you guys what I did. You guys can help me. You know, I'm a PC pleb here. I went to Steam settings. I went to controller, right? And I went to down under external gamepad settings, and I have PlayStation controller support not enabled. I have that. This is the rig that it works just fine. I have that not enabled. And then I have enable Steam input for Switch Pro, generic controllers, enable Steam input for Xbox controllers. I have all that unchecked. When I had all that unchecked out there in the living room, I couldn't even use the Xbox controller, and the DualSense was still acting crazy. So I don't know what I did here. There's something that we did that one day. I was having issues with, I forget what. I was playing something, and you guys told me to go in and change something, and I did, and like we thought that it fixed it because I felt like I was having input delay. This is exactly why I prefer console gaming, because I've never had to do this with my console. Like, well, something's not right. I'm connecting the exact same way, USB. Now, it's USB on the top. Maybe I should go in the back. Maybe it's a USB port that, because it's not directly to the motherboard, it's like on the front. Maybe I should go directly into the motherboard. I don't know. It's not registering the X input correctly. Guess you'd be waiting for that one to hit PS5. Well, I played in here just fine on my rig, but I wanted to play it in my living room. Yes, it was the Akimbot game. That's right. We tried to play the Akimbot demo, and we went and we changed something in Steam, and I can't remember what it was. I thought it was that. I thought it was external gamepad settings, and we disabled Steam input for Xbox. PlayStation controller support is not enabled. Enable in games with support. It should be enabled in games with support. I don't know why it's not enabled on this version of Steam. I'm sorry, on this rig. I don't know. Honestly, try Bluetooth and enable Steam input. You got to turn the Steam input back on. The other game had built-in support for the controllers, so we let the game handle it. Yeah, Witchfire says mostly playable with your controller. That's what it says. And I play in here DualSense, no problem. The game feels great. You guys got to see me play yesterday in the green room. I don't know. I don't understand it. Out there, it was like it was registering the controller like it was a dadgum mouse. I went into the settings of the game and turned the mouse sensitivity down, and it made it like, oh, I could actually move around, but then everything was wrong. Nothing looked right. This is my Steam settings. I need, if I need to sue a controller on a game, so you have everything checked. I'll try that, Wheeze. I mean, I'll try that. Can you DM me? DM me that image so that I can mimic what you've got going, Wheeze. And I'll try later tonight. I'm not using big picture in the living room. No. No. I've been playing Deep Rock Galactic Survivor in my living room with 0 issues. I haven't had any issues. So I don't know. I really was bummed because I was like, I wasted a bunch of time last night. I was like supposed to be working on my curriculum, and I was like, well, let me just boot this up and see how it runs. And then I you know, pissed 30 minutes away, and I just got frustrated. I was like, this is stupid, and I just shut it down. I was like, this is why I don't like PC gaming, because I've never had to do this with my console. Like, well, the controller's not working right. Okay. Oh, yeah, I could get the plumber to look at it. Let me get the plumber back. Oh, my gosh. All right, I'm going to give you guys about 25 minutes, and then we're going to go to Writer's Room. Do me a favor. Let's get 20 more likes on the video. Make sure you've given the video a thumbs up. Double check that. We have not even hit the milestone yet today. I haven't even had to gift yet, so gifting is slowed down. You guys are going to put yourself behind the 8 ball. We don't have to hit the goal every week, but... I'm not gonna browbeat us about it, but we need to hit those 100 a day, or we're not gonna hit it. And we still stream Friday night, but those community game nights have been a blast. Making Madam and I play games has been a blast. So if you guys use those renewals, man, those help. That's fair, but at the same time, you can't use 7 different types of controllers on the PS5. It's give and take. Yeah, but I don't need 7 different types of controllers on the PS5. I only need 1. You know. I only need 1. You got my thumbs up. Thank you. I've never had controller issues for any controller games. Yeah, I don't think the game has any issues in the reviews about this. It's got a 90%. So I could see, let me go look at only negatives. No reason to keep playing it. Nothing you do makes me want to keep playing it. Sound and visual design's appealing. Fun but lacks a hook. Yeah, there's people taking issues with like mechanics and stuff. This guy says the Calamity mechanic is horribly tuned. RNG says you die now BS. That F's pretty much every single run after you get to level 30 plus. I was enjoying the game until it became literally unplayable. All of these positive reviews with 10 hours literally haven't gotten to the bait and switch part of the difficulty. It sounds like they need to tune the back end of the game. They've tuned the front end of the game significantly. All of my major criticisms for Witchfire have been addressed. Like, it just wasn't a very welcoming game, and they've fixed a lot of that. The most common one on PC is an Xbox controller. I have no problem using the Xbox controller. I plugged it in and had the exact same experience. I have a brand new Xbox controller, USB-C cable, plugged it in, and I had the exact same experience. So there's some kind of an input issue with the Steam settings out there that I'm not having here, and I don't know what the issue is. So... to be fair, you can make an argument for 2 types of controller, the regular DualSense and the DualSense Edge. The DualSense Edge is almost essential for competitive shooters, but that's not necessarily 2 types of controllers, is it? That's like an enhanced version of the base controller. What do you think about Visions of Mana? It's not really my kind of game. There's a checkbox somewhere that's wrong. The game is finding which one. If Wheezy's solution doesn't work, definitely try Bluetooth if you can on the rig in the living room with Steam input. I think you gotta turn Steam input back on. Harbinger renews a member plus, and that bumps the line to 121. 4 away from 125, or I'll give 5 to you guys. It must be a different setting that's messed up on the streaming rig. Oh, it's not a streaming rig, it's just an extra gaming rig in the living room, but yeah. Have you given it a go? No. Why would I? I know it's not my kind of game. Like, I have so many games I want to play and so many games that I'm enjoying. I don't waste my time on games that I'm just not gonna enjoy. Like, Visions of Mana looks like one of those games where it has an 80 on Steam. Harbinger gifts a member and takes us to 122, and then a 5-bomb comes in from Cat Uncle. The first 5-bomb of the day takes us to 127. Thank you, Cat Uncle. And I'm going to gift the 5 that I owe you guys right now. It's not turn-based. I feel like Visions of Mana would be a lot like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Like, I would play it and be like, hey, this is kind of fun. And then I wouldn't want to play ever again because the art style, the world, and the characters don't appeal to me. I feel like I'm running around with a bunch of, I'm playing as a bunch of children. It just doesn't look like a game that I would enjoy. If people are enjoying it, that's great. I don't have any desire to play a game like this. My backlog is enormous. I'm loving Witchfire. I'm loving Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. I would love to do a whole playthrough of Death Stranding. You know, I've got all these things I want to do with my time. The last thing I'm going to do is, like, try to play a game that I'm predisposed to not like. It's a JRPG in general you're not really into. It's not that I'm not into JRPGs. I didn't think I was going to like Final Fantasy 16, and then the story and the world and the characters hooked me, and the combat feels amazing. That's wild. That's also why I dropped Relink. Yeah, Relink was fun. I played Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and I had a good time, but I can't do the, you know, all the dialogue is so overly expressed, and the vibe and the art style, and I just can't do it. I'm like, I feel like I'm running around as a bunch of children that are supposed to also be adults or something, and the way they talk and converse, I just can't get into it. It's so good, though. Same with Visions of Mana. It's like anime. I know there are amazing stories and characters and writing in a lot of the anime that you guys watch. I see it for 5 seconds, and I'm like, dude, I couldn't freaking get into that. It's just not... There's something about the art style that rubs me the wrong way. You know? I'm like, I'm good. If the characters acting like children is what annoys you, then Xenoblade series is an incredible JRPG that's a bit more mature. Yeah, it ends up feeling kind of cringe. It's like, you know, hey, so glad to see you. Oh, it's like, what happened? Why'd they react that way? You know? We've got to get to the top of the mountain. You know, and then somebody's like, guh? Like, why are they constantly gasping? What? And then every female character is breathing heavily no matter what. It's like they're always breathing through their talking. You know, I can't even mimic it. There's there's something about it that just, it's like when you take an animal and you're like petting them and you rub their fur the wrong way. When I get into a game like that, that's what's happening. I'm like, oh, I can't do this, man. I'm out. I'm gonna go play something else. It's the hyperbolic anime voice. Everything's overly expressive, and I just can't get into it. Melodrama is a Japanese thing. It's part of a lot of the storytelling and how they do it, the voice acting and the writing in anime for sure. And it drives me up the wall, you know. It's fun to tease it and make fun of it for a little bit, but it's like, dude, I'm not playing a game for 25 hours where every time we stop and have a little bit of dialogue, I got to listen to everybody almost sound like they're moaning. I'm like, no, I'm good, man. You know? Not Alan Rogers with a $5 super chat says, reject anime, physically remove weebs. No, I don't care if people like it. I just don't. You know? It's like I typically don't like rhythm games either. There's something about them. Like, I actually was really enjoying Hi-Fi Rush and didn't think that I was going to, because I typically don't enjoy rhythm-based games. There was the shooter, Death Hellsinger, you know, and even I had a hard time getting into that one. Did someone say Mountain? I'm okay with people saying a game is not for them. I'm not okay with people judging a game because it's not for them. Yeah, I'm not judging it. I just know the likelihood of me enjoying Visions of Mana, it's like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I enjoyed Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, but I also kind of didn't. You know? It's like, I didn't go back to that game, and I had a good time with it, but like everything about it, just, it was all of those things that I'm not big on. And our gameplay did very well. It's got like 9,000 views. You know, we picked up, and that actually continues to get viewership for us. It hasn't even plateaued as a past broadcast. In the last, 245? Just in the last 5 days, it's gotten a couple hundred views. Like, the thing still pulls viewership for my channel, and it was January of this year. Barrier said, somebody said anime? Why would the plumber not turn off the water main to start? You know, that probably is fair criticism of what he was doing. As soon as he starts cutting, yeah, he should have turned the water off. I kind of agree with you. I thought about that too, like, because he said something when he was going upstairs. He's like, I knew it. And I guarantee you he was thinking to himself, I knew I should have cut the water off first. It's not worth the risk, right? The 1 to 2 minutes that it would take you to come back down and turn it back on when you need it, not even 1 to 2 minutes, the 60 seconds it would take you to come down, cut the water main back on whenever it's time to test something, it's worth it. Like, that's one of the first things you should always do. You didn't turn the water off? No. I was streaming and I suddenly heard water and I heard something like drop because I think he was cutting. Hit it, dropped it. I heard water. I mean, I lightning bolted to the water main and shut it off. So thankfully, it didn't damage anything. It just literally came down into the opening where he was working, just onto the cement floor in our basement. So it wasn't a big deal, but still, it was like, dude, I'm not a plumber, but if I'm cutting into a wall and there's like water lines in there, the water should be off. Shouldn't need to cut the water off if you're working on sewer lines, but all the lines are in the wall, Eugene. There are lines coming up to the sink, and then there's pipe going down, and he nicked one of the lines coming up to the sink. And they didn't charge me to repair it because he had to obviously rip that out and then put another one in. So, but yeah, if you're cutting in the wall, you know, and you know there's lines in there, the water should be off. That's why it was twice as cheaper. No, he was good. He did good work. It was just a simple mistake, you know. I wasn't angry with him. I was like, it's all right, you know. We got it shut off really quick. It's not like he did it and didn't realize, you know, and it ran for 20 minutes and ruined something. When I did demolition, we first looked at the water and the power shut off. Yeah. It's normal to cut the water while doing drywall inspection. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to give you guys 10 more minutes. Let me schedule the writer's room. You guys got 10 minutes if you want to bring a bunch of people with us to members. We could go to the next milestone of 150. I'll give 5 more, and then we will... thumbnail test completed on the Starfield one. And where is the results? The thumbnail that I thought would perform better barely did. 51% versus 48, 51.3 versus 48.7. Okay. That's such an interesting feature. That video panned out, though. It started out really, really not great, and then it panned out. No. Yeah, everything's fixed. Everything's fixed. I just have a little bit of a hole that'll need patch at some point with some drywall. So, They got us all straightened out. New toilets in. Everything's fine. They fixed it. He pulled out the one bad pipe, you know. They did good work, you know. They were good dudes. It was just, you know, he made that one mistake. He made a tiny other mistake, but I'm just going to overlook it. They screwed in something, and the screws, just a teeny bit, came out on the other side in the other bathroom. Like, thankfully, it's like behind the toilet. But yeah, I was like, you guys shouldn't have done that. Let's see here. Shows an experience. I mean, he's a little younger, you know, so he wasn't like an old guy. I'd say he's probably in his 30s, you know. So maybe it slipped his mind. Maybe he thought, I'll be fine, you know. You know how it is. You gotta tell them. Well, yeah, I think I was gonna take a picture and just reply and just say, hey, just a heads up, you know, you guys went a little too far here, like, and thankfully it's like you can't see it. It's behind the toilet in the other bathroom. But like, if you'd have done it higher on the wall, I'd have a damaged wall. I mean, arguably I do, but it's like you can't really see it. Dude was really complaining about this. Oh yeah, how PS Plus gets you, yeah, the Dead Space remake and WWE and what's the other game? Oh, Doki Doki. Yeah, I don't care about that, but yeah. Isn't the WWE game like actually pretty popular? All right, writer's room is set up. Take that back. Doki Doki's great. That could be the stretch goal for this week. Maybe that'll put a little bit of fire under you guys to push the member goal this week. Make me play Doki Doki on Friday night with Madam. You know? All of a sudden the member count skyrockets. You should play Doki Doki. There's nothing weird about it. I don't have any interest in that game, dude. No other game has done what Doki Doki has done. I don't know if that's, you know, exciting or foreboding. I'm not sure which. These aren't jokes. Yo, a member plus from Pac-Man on a bike. He gets us a little bit closer to the next milestone. 128 members. He says, did you say Doki Doki this Friday? Happy to be here another month. No, I said that we could make it a stretch goal. I'm not playing that. No. He won't be ready for what Doki Doki does to him. Yeah, if you guys want to do that as the goal for Friday night, feel free. But you guys we're already off to another rough week on it, so we're gonna fall behind really quickly again. So you'll have to rally the troops if you want to see me play Doki Doki, because I'm not playing games like that, dude. No way. The conversation and not play those types of games. You have nothing to compare a bad game versus a good game. Oh, you're saying people won't play a certain type of game? It depends on the game, though. Like, if you know you don't like fighting games, you're probably not going to go out of your way to play a fighting game. Like, you just know. You're like, yeah, that's not my kind of game. I think that's totally fine. Now, if they're going to judge it and say that it's bad, I mean, that's obviously different. Maximo helps push the line with a 16-month renewal. Member Pluses and VIPs count. Upgrades. If you guys upgrade to Member Plus or VIP, it counts as 2. I would compare Doki Doki to Elden Ring. That was not Okie Dokie. That's ridiculous. Lono playing Sparking Zero would be great. It's very different from Doki Doki Panic. I don't know what any of this stuff is that you guys are talking about. What's it? The Doki Doki Literature Club or whatever it's called? Yeah, I know that game because I know a lot of the times like people make a streamer play it, and it, you know, and it's a unique experience. Yeah, we haven't had 30 on the show in a while just because we did a couple of shows where I felt like we were just kind of forcing it, like picking a topic, and it was like we were just kind of doing it for the sake of doing it. And I want to do shows with him, but I want it to be like we kept doing it and then that would perform terribly. And it's like you get to a certain size and you can't just like throw out a video or throw out a live stream that tanks every week, especially when it's the last piece of content. You know, it's the last piece of content that sits on the channel for the whole weekend. You know, gaming news this week sits on the channel over the weekend and tends to perform pretty well. And I think it's good. And I think it's good content. I thought the content with Mike was good content, but we weren't getting great results. And I think it was because we get all the way to the end of the week and there's just not much left to talk about. That's quite literally why gaming news this week is what I do on Friday mornings, because like we get to the end of the week and it's kind of like it's a little bit of a mismatch. There's usually nothing really left. It's like a front burner thing to talk about. So we either retread or we try to find something, and it just wasn't working. And then with the PS5 Pro, the PS5 Pro kind of took over the news cycle for a couple of weeks there. Well, there's nothing for us to say about it. He wasn't interested in it in talking about it. So I was like, well, that's largely what we were covering and talking about. So, all right, I'm going to spam a link in chat. We're going to go to the writer's room. Hey, thanks so much for being a member. If this hit your feed, you are either a gifted member or you're paying for your own. Thank you so much for doing that. The Writer's Room is a behind-the-scenes look at how we kind of plan the days, and we did a little bit of an experiment today. We went with another sort of more broad format, gaming news today. I feel like we got really good results from it. We obviously still are going to do uploads, but this might be a format that kind of keeps us from making the live show so rigid to one topic. So I also think that might help too with like if the upload's about Horizon, gaming news today can incorporate that, but it doesn't have to be the only thing we talk about. People seem to be responding well and saying, hey, I wouldn't have watched if it was just about Starfield, but we got to talk about Starfield and a bunch of other topics today as well. So I'm going to end the previous stream and bring folks over. Let us know what you think of the new format in the comments below. I'm going to make sure and change that thumbnail so that it no longer says live.